Welcome to the Literacy Council's 2016 Annual Recognition Event. I'm so grateful that you all braved the weather and drove in these miserable rainstorms and made it here safely. Thank you. Before we begin, I just want to give you a reminder, please turn off all electronic devices during the program. And please do not eat or drink in the theater. We're going to have refreshments after the show downstairs in the classroom. Thank you. It is in the Literacy Council's mission statement to empower adults to participate more fully and confidently in their communities. So that is this evening's theme. What does that mean to our adult learners? So we asked them to write their essays on "When I Learn English, My Community Grows." So we will hear tonight from some of our learners their thoughts on community engagement. All of the essays submitted are in your playbill, so please take the time to read the thoughtful and beautiful essays authored by our LCNV learners. For the Literacy Council as an organization, growing our community is important too. LCNV is always seeking new partners, developing new relationships, and creating pathways to integrate our programs with other local community providers. Working together as a community is the way to find solutions to build a stronger future for everyone. Tonight, we celebrate the work of the Literacy Council of Northern Virginia and the community we have built together over the past 53 years. And we appreciate the wonderful volunteers and learners who bring rich talents and diversity to our family. So thank you to all of us for joining us on our journey and for being part of this community. I would like to acknowledge this evening a special guest that we have in the audience tonight, a representative from Congressman Jerry Connolly's office, Alex Robbins. Congressman Connolly has long supported our work, and we are so grateful that he always takes the time to recognize LCNV's learners and volunteers. Alex, did you want to come on stage for a minute?
Good evening, everyone. As Tricia mentioned, my name is Alex Robbins. I'm the Fairfax Outreach Representative for Congressman Jerry Connolly, who did have every intention of being here this evening, but then was unavoidably delayed by the duties of his office. But he did wish me to pass along a couple of things. First of all, congratulations to all of the awardees this evening. And then secondly, a big thank you to the staff and volunteers here at LCNV for all of the work that you do for your community. And as a token of his appreciation, he has entered into the congressional record here a statement honoring both the awardees this evening and all of the staff and volunteers at LCNV. So on his behalf, let me just present this to you right now, and thank you again.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. So nice to be right across the river from Washington and have access to these cool things. So the Congressional Record, House of Representatives, and this will be on display in our office. And all of the names of the volunteers are listed, the outstanding instructors, the outstanding students, and our community partner awards. So thank you, Alex, for coming, and thank you to Congressman Connolly for always taking the time to serve our community. And to all of our elected officials, we are so grateful for the work we do, and we have wonderful representation in Congress and in the General Assembly in Virginia. I'd also like to take this time to recognize the LCNV Board of Directors. We are so fortunate to have strong leadership and a strong group of professionals leading the Literacy Council. Would all of the board members in the audience please stand to be recognized? I know many of you are here tonight, and let's all give them a round of applause for this time and skill to In particular, I would like to recognize LCNV's outgoing board president, Kitty Porterfield, who could not be here tonight, but those of you who have been to this event in former years know her well. She has served a full 6-year term on the LCNV board and 4 years as our board president. So we're so grateful for her leadership. Also leaving the board this year, after completing her second 6-year term, is Sally Jagger, who has served the Literacy Council as a strong leader for more than 19 years. Please join me in recognizing Kitty and Sally. And Sally, could you stand? I know you're here tonight. Thank you. Now, speaking about community, I also have the honor of recognizing this year's community partners. Every year, we select a few special organizations for their exceptional support of our mission. It is always a difficult process because there is a blessing of riches among LCNV's generous donors. So tonight, I will briefly recognize our wonderful corporate and foundation and community partners. Now, we get support from all kinds of organizations, which is what makes this organization so wonderful. It is not just government funded. We do receive some government funds from Fairfax and from the state, but we receive support from many different organizations. One example of this is one of our community partners this year, very interesting organization based in DC called the Catalog of Philanthropy. This has a unique mission and a unique way to build capacity and support for small nonprofit organizations. Every year, the catalog production team thoroughly reviews and vets applications from hundreds of small charities who operate with less than a $3 million budget. They select the 60 best and brightest and showcase them in a beautiful publication, which is then sent to thousands of households in the DC metro area. A listing in this elite catalog has become the gold standard for small nonprofits. So donors throughout the region would never hear from or about LCNV without this unique opportunity. LCNV has had the great privilege of being listed in this catalog 3 times. And we are so grateful for their support. And unfortunately, they could not be here tonight to accept the award. They have a teeny tiny staff of about 4 people, but they really are doing extraordinary work in the community and in showcasing our organization to audiences that we would never reach without their support. So let's give a round of applause to the catalog. Another very important organization and the John Edward Fowler Memorial Fund is our second community partner. And this is another great example of the kind of funding we receive. A family foundation founded years ago by the wife of John Edward Fowler, who passed away and had a passion for education, both K through 12 and adult, and for human services generally. And it's a quiet but mighty family foundation. For 52 years, they have been supporting the Washington metro region, giving $1.2 million annually to organizations that serve the most vulnerable in our community. LCNV has been receiving grants from the John Edward Fowler Memorial Fund for 10 years for a total of $60,000 of support. Their family foundation, just established by a wonderful Northern Virginia family, has helped hundreds of families throughout the metropolitan area and certainly hundreds of LCNV learners. So we are proud to acknowledge the John Edward Fowler Memorial Fund. And again, they could not be here tonight. It's a tiny foundation that's managed by family members. So we're just grateful that we're on their radar. So let's give them a round of applause. And Mike just wanted me to announce once again the support of our elected officials. Anfan is here representing Senator Mark Warner's office. What a privilege. I need to make any comments? Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to come. Finally, one of our community partners who is here tonight, well, that's because they live here. This is their theater. We are so excited to be recognizing the Fairfax County Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, because without this great staff, we wouldn't be here. So working with this community is more than just a partnership. We are family here at the James Lee Center. Zuri and her team routinely accommodate LCNV's requests to use the gym or the theater or additional spaces. It is really the best and most collaborative situation in the world. And Dan Schrader, the theater man, is like the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz in the tech booth. Mr. Quincy, who you've probably seen if you've come into the building, is a one-man welcoming committee for hundreds of LCNV learners. The most recent example is so recent that it didn't even make the program notes. We are now working with Region 2 in the Fairfax County Neighborhood and Community Services Department to install smart boards in the LCNV classrooms. How cool is that? If they can have them in the K-12 system, we can have them in adult education. And we wouldn't be able to do this if Fairfax County Neighborhood and Community Services was not so generous, supportive, and didn't so believe in the work that we're doing together. So it is more than a privilege to recognize the Fairfax County Neighborhood and Community Services Department. And here to accept the award is Alyssa and Zuri from the county staff. So, and come on. You don't want to say anything. It's like having your sisters on stage with you. Yes. True. Now I would like to introduce Sarah Burma, the Vice President of the LCNV Board. Sarah has served on the Literacy Council Board for 5 years, and he brings great corporate leadership experience, strategic planning experience, and a global business perspective. His passion for the mission has inspired and recruited 3 other LCNV board members, and his position at Acumen Solutions has built one of our best corporate partnerships in the history of LCNV. Please join me in welcoming our own Sarah Byrne.
Good evening, everybody. Those are a lot of words, but I'll take that. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here and stepping in for Kitty, who I know is traveling right now and is very sorry she could have been here with all of you on this occasion. Kitty truly is an exceptional leader, and I know I can speak for my board colleagues sitting here that she has really developed a strong community in LCNV board, and we all really enjoy working with her. It's been a joy and privilege to serve on the LCNV board. As you said, it's 5 years and the time flew by. I think it was a mission-driven journey we had with our fabulous LCNV staff, and we are trying to just help and make an impact for our students and our volunteers. So it's been very interesting, and a lot of lessons learned have come through the way, and I can't even think about leaving, but I believe that's going to happen soon. It's been fun to be around here. It's my great honor to introduce our student speakers today, who are going to read their essays on the community. I think this is the part of the program which truly brings our mission to life, and hearing the stories from the learners in their own words. We invite all Literacy Council learners to write an essay on the topic the Council has selected, and which Patty mentioned earlier. The topic is "When I Learn English, My Community Grows." This is an excellent opportunity for the learners to use their newfound English literacy skills and language skills, and actually they are truly becoming a published author. They have written something, they're going to come and speak to it. I would suggest everybody, please take the time to read the very thoughtful and inspiring essays you have in the program, in your books. The process is a group of unbiased reviewers read all the essays and selected 5 to be read at tonight's event. I think it takes a lot of courage to write and submit an essay for an adult with the new skills they have done, and even to come to stage and read publicly to a crowd of this size. So I think for all the students who are going to be done this, thank you all for your accomplishments, and it's truly a bravery of the effort to come here and do that. I would like to introduce the student Nader Gorban-Zadeh. Essay was selected as a winner, but unfortunately he's unable to be with us tonight. Nader's home country is Iran. He came here in 2015 and has just taken 1 semester of a class in LCNV in Northern Virginia Community College. He will be now attending English classes, moving on to the Northern Virginia Community College. That's where he is tonight. Please enjoy reading his essay in the book. Moving on, next we have Liam Dang. Liam is a tutor student originally from Vietnam. She has been an LCNV student since 2011 and is currently working with her tutor Diane DiPaolo. Please come up, Liam, and share your story.
Good evening. Before I begin, I would like to thank the Literacy Council of Northern Virginia for allowing me this opportunity. I would also like to thank my teacher, Diane DiPaolo. It is only through her guidance and enthusiasm that I am speaking to you tonight. Today, the wave of immigrants who come to live in the United States continues to increase. They come for the same reasons as the colonists who came before them. Whatever their reasons, freedom, political asylum, economic opportunity, or escape from persecution, everyone has to adjust to establishing a new life here. There is a saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. I came to the United States over 6 years ago, and I became a US citizen last year. Since the first day I came to the US, my favorite pastime has been studying English in my English class. Through studying English, I'm learning more about my second country and how I can adjust to this new life. Actually, I haven't known the United States from when I studied geography and history of the world in high school. I also spent my youth during the time of the Vietnam War. So at that time, I didn't understand why the Americans were present in my country. Today, as a mature adult living in the US, I have a new perspective regarding the many things I learned about the US as a child. And I have much more I have to learn. In English class, I study the quick civics lessons to get ready for my citizenship test. My teacher introduced many history books for me to read. Her explanations also helped me to have a deeper understanding of US history. With this, I was able to pass the citizenship test. It's clear that the knowledge I have gained about the United States by passing the naturalization test is due largely to the study of English. Now that I am a US citizen, there are many new areas to discover about the United States. Today, the opportunities for learning about my new country are limitless. It may be science, the economy, law, culture, entertainment, or travel. There are so many areas. If I want to enjoy life in the United States, I must continue with my favorite activity, the study of English. I want to continue to learn more about this strong country in which I now live. What I receive from English class through the Literacy Council of Northern Virginia is a future that is full of hope. Sometimes I have a difficulty and I get discouraged, but after brief moments of weakness, I recover and find my excitement again. The world is wide open with much information to learn every day. English is the key that will unlock the door to my new life. Studying English is the best way to learn more about my new life in the US and even the world. Once again, I thank you.
Thank you, Liam, for the wonderful essay. Next, I would like to call Gemma Baron Ramos, is another classroom student who has attended 2 semesters of English class with LCNV and is in the same class as another. She moved here in 2015 from Spain. Gemma, please come up and read your story.
Good evening. My name is Gemma. I'm from Spain, and this is my essay. On August 20th, 2015, I arrived in the United States. I was excited because this is my This is my, oh, I'm sorry. This was my first time in this country. The first week, we were living in a hotel because we don't have a house. We were looking for a house and a school for all children. My husband was the one who did all of this because I don't speak English at all. I only knew how to say some words in English. I had to wait for him to go shopping or go to school to speak with all children's teachers. At first, it was important for me because he helped me, but I could not always depend on him. I feel bad because I could not go any place alone. I could not speak with anyone. For that reason, I thought I had to do something by myself in order to be able to speak and understand English speakers. My husband searched for English class for me and he found a community center. When I started class, I don't understand anything. I did not know what they were telling me. Every day I learned something new. Before learning English, my community was only the people with my language, Spanish. All my family lived in Spain, but I met with some Spain friends. They are living in this country too. They come from Spain and our husbands work together. We meet to have lunch or dinner, or when there is a birthday or party, we enjoy a lot together. But now my community includes people with another language, English. In a school, I can speak with some friends' mamas. We talk on the playground after school. Sometimes they come to my home with their children to play, and I can practice English. I have to learn more and improve my English a lot, but when I see the result of my learning, I'm so happy, and now I can speak or go shopping by myself. It is a hard route, but I have to keep studying to improve my English, and it that way. I can take part in my children's school, learn more about my neighborhood, or meet other language speakers. When you know another language different or from your own, these things become easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, for the beautiful essay. The next one I have is Shu Chu Ho, is a student in the tutoring program. Shu started with us in LCNV in EOSL, tutoring in 2012, and now is in the basic tutoring program. Her tutor is Michelle Norris. Shu is from Taiwan, and thank you for coming up for the read story.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shu Chu Ho. I'm from Taiwan. My tutor is Michelle. Thank you for letting me share my essay with you. When I learn English, my community grows. When I came to America, I could not speak English. I only smiled at people when they talked. And I had to ask my daughter to translate for me. Now I can talk to everybody I want to. I can talk to cashiers, taxi drivers. I can make friends wherever I go now because I can talk to everyone. Learning English has helped me become closer to my family. I can join in the conversations that my grandchildren have, and I can be more involved in their lives. I ask them what they learned in school and how their friends are. Now we can understand each other. Learning English has helped me make many friends. Teaching to American students who learn Chinese from me because I know how to speak English. I can teach them Chinese. I can make friends more easily in my apartment building. I can start conversation with my neighbors. They who don't speak Chinese. I take dance classes with them. We talk, laugh, dance, and have a lot of fun. Being able to speak English has made my life happier. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Shu. Our last student speaker is Gloria Consuelo Castellanos. Gloria is in the same class as Hema and Nader. They all have the same teacher, Kate Contreras. Gloria moved here from Colombia in 2015 and has just taken one semester of English class in LCNV. Thank you for sharing the story.
Good evening, my name is Gloria Consuelo Castellanos. I'm from Colombia and I'm so happy for sharing my essay with us and with you. This is my essay. To learn English is one of the most important things in the development of a person because it is an universal language that all people should speak to spread the surrounding community. I wanted to learn English because it is very important for my life and my professional development. And I want my children learning English too, because I want for them many open doors in their life. Before I started to learn English, my community was just my family, my friends, and my co-workers. But I only communicated with them in Spanish. I went away when someone close to us spoke English because I feel nervous or ashamed to not understand or be understood. This did not permit me to spread my community. I feel the need to learn English when I started my career. People near to me that spoke English got information easier and got better opportunities. So I decided I am going to learn English because I want to and because I can. It was a great decision. With this, I started to spread my word and my knowledge. When I started to learn English, my work became bigger because I could interact with many people from all over the world. I could read easier about many topics, and I lost the nervousness because to be near people that speak English. Usually, in most English schools, you can find people from different nationalities, and you realize that all of them are looking for the same as you. And you can share the same difficulty for learning, but you can learn a lot from them. To share with these people is important to improve knowledge, because together we can easily achieve this goal by providing each other different aspects in their life. One of the events which I have realized that learning English really helps me is in my attendance at medical conference. I try to attend every year to medical conference, where there are many lectures in English. When the speaker talked in English, I always needed a translation device to understand the lecture. But I have studied English more consistently 2 years ago, and I feel better in listening. The past February, I attended an international medical meeting where most of the speakers talk in English. I asked a translation device, as usually do, but when I used it, I realized that most of the time I did not need it. And many times I feel better without the translation, because the person who translates was not doing it well, and this caused confusion. This made me feel good, because I could see results for my study. I don't understand 100%, but I have improved a lot. It has been a long process, but with perseverance, I have learned every day more and more about the language. For my children, it has been faster, but they are children. For kids, always the learning is faster. However, I want to continue my purpose, and I am happy with that. Now, I can know a lot of culture, I can speak more comfortably with many people, and I can say that now my community has grown. Not just for me, but my family. We had new friends, we enjoyed talking with people from other countries, and we had new opportunities. I am more confident than ever that the decision to learn English was a great decision, and I give this advice. If you want to spread your community, or if you want to extend your work, you need to speak English very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria. All students who submitted essays are to be congratulated for their hard work and achievements. Can I please just ask all the students in the audience to please stand up? Let's give all a big round of applause. Thank you. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for today evening, Delegate Mark Keene. Mark Keene represents the 35th District in the Virginia House of Delegates. His district is entirely within the Fairfax County, includes over 80,000 residents living in the parts of Fair Oaks, Pembroke, Oakton, Vienna, Dunloring, Tysons, and McLean. Mark, first elected in November 2009, became the first Asian-born immigrant to serve in the Virginia General Assembly. He was re-elected in 2011, 2013, and 2015 by his constituents and continues to engage with the voters on the key issues. Mark is a legislator with a strong reputation for bipartisanship and effectiveness. He focuses on creating jobs, improving schools, addressing traffic gridlocks, I love that part, reducing burdens on businesses, strengthening social safety nets, and making the government more transparent, efficient, and accountable. Most importantly, Mark is committed to literacy, language, education for adults. He knows and understands our mission, has deep personal experience with immigration. Mark also has experience in engaging and building communities. Mark, thank you for joining us tonight, for sharing your story. Please let's welcome Delegate Mark Keene.
Well, thank you, Zara, for that very nice introduction. And I would also thank my good friend Patty for not only hosting this event today and leading LCNV all throughout the year, but also for inviting me to be part of this. Although, at this stage, having heard 4 incredible, wonderful speakers today, I have no idea why I'm here. You don't need me here at all, because you've already got some very inspiring speakers, and I got a lot out of just listening to the 4 of you, Hema, and Chichu, and Liam, and Gloria. I want to thank you all. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, and a lot of courage to do something that is uncomfortable. But you did it. You did it with style, you did it with a big smile, and you made all of us that much richer tonight because of your thoughts and your words. And so I want to thank all of you. And everybody who submitted a statement and an essay today, I want to thank all of you. So can we give them another round of applause, please? I've been involved in literacy issues for a long time. Starting out as a young immigrant who left one country, lived in a couple of other countries along the way because of my father's work, and eventually ending up in the United States of America when I was 14 years old. Not speaking English perfectly, not speaking Korean perfectly, not speaking French or Vietnamese in any articulable way. I had a hard time speaking with people because I just didn't learn one language properly all the way through. And so I was an ESL student when I was a kid. I also spent a lot of time translating between cultures. Both of my parents still don't speak any English, or if they do, they think they do, but nothing like what we just heard from Liam and others. And I grew up in immigrant communities throughout Virginia as well as in California and other places that I've lived. And so I know how hard it is for people to have to face new culture, new language, new traditions, new ways of doing things. And on top of that, to not be able to articulate your thoughts and to hear and understand other people's conversations. So I know how hard that is. And that is why it's so important for LCNV and other literacy organizations to be out there to do what you're doing. And so let me also thank the volunteers who make this possible, who put in so much time and effort to make this the most important touching of another person's lives in your lives. So I want to thank the volunteers. So can we give the volunteers a round of applause as well? I wanted to talk about literacy and how it's so important in our society today. And the theme today of If I Learn English, Our Community Grows, I think it's a wonderful theme. But I decided to not talk about that and address something else instead because of what's happening in our nation today. And I think in some ways it's relevant to the reason why we're all here. A couple of hours ago I was at another graduation, kind of like what we're doing today, but it was much larger. I was at George Mason University at the graduation of Oakton High School, class of 2016. About 800 students who were graduating. They happen to be my constituents. I represent the school. And as I do every year, I attend the school and I watch these young men and women walking across the stage, receiving their diplomas, just so full of life and energy and just excited about their future. And of course, their proud parents and family in the audience, looking at them with such pride and accomplishments. And it was a special night, a special day. But for the thunderstorm that happened and ruined the photo opportunities for everybody, it was a very special day. So I left the place, and as I was driving over here, it reminded me of the name of the university that I was attending, or I was at for the graduation, George Mason University. And I'm not talking about the other name. I mentioned the other George Mason name change issue. But George Mason University was named after Mr. George Mason IV. And Mr. George Mason IV is a proud Fairfax County, Virginia. And I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the story. You'll see his name all around Northern Virginia. But for those of us who are immigrants, and those of us who may not have been able to attend school in Virginia growing up, maybe we're not as familiar with Mr. Mason as we should be. So let me tell you a little story. And I want to tell you why this is relevant to what's happening in America today. And most importantly, I want to conclude with why this is relevant to you, especially the students in this room. Mr. Mason and his forebears came to the United States like so many other people, except they came from England in the early 1600s, 1640s. So Mr. George Mason I came, created a little land for himself from Jamestown. He started moving up towards Fairfax County, what it is today, right here, and established himself a colony, a land, a mansion, and property. And he had a good life, as some rich people back then, property owners did. His son, George Mason II, continued the tradition. And his grandson, George Mason III, also continued the tradition of being landowners in the colonies of Virginia. They, along with the other 25,000, 30,000 new Americans who came from another shore, were establishing a new life here. But they were content with the life that they were given by somebody else. And somebody else was King George, and the kings and the royalty of England, who still controlled the colonies at the time. And so by the time Mr. George Mason IV came along, and he established himself a house right here in Fairfax County, he and his learned friends, those that spoke English eloquently, who understood the classics, who read a lot, who had a lot of conversations among themselves, realized that even though life on the surface is fine, they had food, shelter, they had slaves that took care of a lot of the work that they didn't want to do. They had land, they had a lot of riches. But what they didn't have was a sense that they can determine their own destiny. What they did not have was a sense that they were absolutely free. And the reason was because the government overseas in England continued to oppress the 13 colonies here by requiring them to pay taxes, by requiring them to have tariffs when they have food and other products brought here from Europe, by meddling with their business here, even though the government was overseas, and limiting their ability to do things. And most importantly, they said, you still have to bow down to the king. You all that live here, by that point, a couple of million people after 4 generations. Even though you live in thousands of miles away from England, England is still your king. We are still your rulers. And so if you want to do anything, if you want to raise taxes, if you want to get out of taxes, you have to come to us, England. And we have to give you approval in order for you to have anything that you want in your life. And that led to violence, that led to properties being taken, that led to military, British military coming in and oppressing them in ways that they thought was not right. And so Mr. George Mason IV, the gentleman whose the college here is named after, decided to do something remarkable, something that you and I today take for granted. He decided to put in paper, a piece of paper, what he really thought a human being is worth in this nation, in the world. So he penned a bunch of thoughts in English in the most educated, articulable way possible. He wrote down some very powerful words on paper. He said, all men are created equal, and that they have rights that were given to them by God, and that the government only exists when these men, the free men, come together and create a government. And that we should determine our future based not on what the king or royalty or heredity tells us, but based on what we think is the best interest of us as people. And that in order for us to have this lifestyle, this freedom that we want, we ought to create a government that is of, for, and by the people. And the government should have certain types of restrictions so that the government does not oppress us. And among those rights that we should have are rights to have freedom of speech, right to worship or not worship as we want, right to be able to arm ourselves in case there's an insurrection and protect ourselves, a right to be able to organize among ourselves and speak up when we want to, and ultimately, the right to get rid of governments that are not doing what we want them to do. He wrote down all these words on a couple of pieces of paper back then, in parchment paper, and he sent it with his friends down to, at that time, Williamsburg, which is where the state government was meeting. And the General Assembly, which couldn't meet because the General Assembly at that time was part of the British government, called the House of Burgesses, they couldn't meet to talk about this because this would have been a treacherous thing to do. In English, the word traitor is one of the worst things that one can ever be, because you're going to go against your own country. You swear allegiance to your country and then you turn around and disobey your country. That is the worst thing that happens, and it's automatic death penalty. And so for any human being in America at that time, a British subject, to say the king is wrong, we're right, and we're going to have our own rights, and you don't have any say about that, that was a treacherous act. They would have been considered traitors. And so they met in secret. And instead of calling themselves the House of Burgesses, they call themselves the Virginia Convention. And they met, they discussed it, they liked the idea. They took a lot of courage to stand up and say, I believe in these rights. And guess what? I'm going to adopt these rights as if they're my rights. That happened on June 12th of 1776. 240 years ago, June 12th of 1776. One of the men in that room was this bright young man, another learned, highly educated person who was very good with the words, very good with English language. His name was Thomas Jefferson. And at that point, he had already been appointed to be a member of the Virginia delegation that went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to start meeting in this organization called the Congressional Convention. They wanted to see if they can form not just Virginians, but all 13 colonies from south all the way up to north, and get them together and see if they can combine their power and create something new. And when they read George Mason's Virginia Declaration of Rights, they said, this is a powerful document. It can't just be a Virginia document. It has to be a national document. So Thomas Jefferson took that draft, refined it a little bit, because he happened to be a better English speaker than George Mason. And Mr. Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, which starts, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator, with certain unalienable rights, among which life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And it goes on to list all those things that we have that we believe are inherent rights, and those things that the government and the kingdom of King George in England were doing things that were oppressing. As a result, that Declaration of Independence, which was signed on July 4th of 1776, helped create what we call the United States of America, the country that you and I are so proud to be part of. And that led, eventually, to the Constitution being drafted and adopted, that includes Bill of Rights, which also George Mason drafted. And that led to the American Revolution, which created the freedom that we have today. And that led us eventually to what it is that we call the United States of America today. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Happiness. I heard from the four of you as you're speaking, not only were you happy yourselves speaking about what you said, but I also saw and read into your essay the idea that you are pursuing your version of happiness in America. You are fulfilling George Mason's dream that all people, men and women, slaves and free people, can in fact pursue your happiness. 240 years after the day that George Mason's Declaration was adopted, June 12th, 2016, a place that we as Americans consider to be the happiest place on earth, happiest place on earth, Disney World, Orlando, Florida. There are people pursuing their happiness. Hundreds, thousands of young people pursuing their happiness in this country. Enjoying a night out, hanging out, dancing, singing, having a few drinks with their friends. Just a few steps away from the happiest place on earth, Disney World. A man walks in with weapons of mass destruction and unspeakable horror. The worst possible thing that human beings could do to each other happened. And we all know about this. Just a few days ago, 49 young people lost their lives. Among them were Latino Americans, some African Americans, some Caucasian Americans. Many of them were immigrants and children of immigrants. The person, the evil human being who perpetrated the crime is an American by birth, but Afghanistani by ethnic background. And he chose the faith of Islam. And as the shootings were happening, a couple of the bouncers, the security guards, who went in to protect those that were falling and to save some of them, among them was an Indian American and a Chinese American. And the SWAT team that came in to that nightclub were made up of African Americans and white police officers. So 240 years to the day that George Mason's Declaration of Rights was adopted right here in Virginia, we find that as we are trying to live the same goals that he said that we should live, pursuing our happiness, some people were gunned down. Now, a lot has happened in 240 years in America. When Mr. Mason, Mr. Jefferson, Patrick Henry, George Washington, when all the founders gathered in Philadelphia, they probably didn't imagine a place in that same country where you would have a Muslim shooting up Latinos in a gay nightclub and protected by Asians. They probably didn't imagine that. That sense of diversity would have been outside of their realm of possibility. Because if you imagine what life in 1776 was, it didn't include many of those people. It didn't include anybody in this room, or at least many of us in this room. We were not the people. We were not the people that the founders of the nation envisioned in their mind when they wrote those words. And yet here we are. And today we are pursuing the same right to happiness that George Mason and Thomas Jefferson declared that we already have. And so, as I thought about what happened in Florida last week, and as I was breaking, my heart was as broken as all of you were, and I thought about how we're just such a crazy, diverse, and incredibly pluralistic society that we have today. It reminded me that atrocious act happened just within a few miles from a ride that my children and I used to go to when we go down there when they were smaller, called It's a Small World After All, at Disney World. It is really a small world after all. And sometimes when the world becomes smaller, you create conflicts. Sometimes when people of different backgrounds come together, there's misunderstanding. Sometimes when people of different religions come together and they pray differently, people's prejudices go up. And sometimes when people of different languages come together and speak in different ways, people are concerned because the foreignness scares them. It bothers them. When somebody sees a person wearing a different headgear than you do, when somebody sees somebody's skin color darker than yours, when somebody sees a man holding a hand of another man, when somebody sees a person with disabilities, with one limb missing, when you see this, people's backs come up because they don't feel comfortable with that sense that there are differences. And yet, every one of us, regardless of your race, gender, religion, ethnic origin, sexual orientation, disability rights, anything that you and I have, those differences have nothing to do with what this country was founded on. This country and our documents and our founding principles talk about uniting together. That all of us, endowed by the Creator, not Christian Creator, the Creator, we have the same rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So, how do you and I pursue our version of happiness in this crazy world where there are people on the outside who are looking for opportunities to divide people even more, who every time they see one small act of diversity going awry, they turn around and say, we got to shut down the borders. We can't let certain people come into this country. We have to build walls so that some people on one side of our nation can't come across, while the other side can freely come across. That people of certain sexual orientation can't love people that they want because it goes against their personal views. My friends, this is a critical moment in our lives in America today. This is a very important time in our 240-year history. This is a time when America has to understand and remember and go back to the founding principles upon which this nation was formed. The idea, the spark that George Mason, right here in Fairfax County, and Thomas Jefferson and others thought of when they were writing those words in English. Those words became power. The power became action. Action became revolution. Revolution became a nation. And the nation has now become 320 million of us pursuing our version of happiness. This is not a time for us to be cowed, scared, worried. This is a time for all of us as Americans to stand up and say, we are here, we belong here, and we are Americans, and we're going to do everything we can to make this country even greater than it is already. And to do that, we have to find common ground. And the most important common ground that you and I can find is to be able to speak with each other in one language. That is why what you're doing today, teaching new Americans, teaching foreigners, teaching young people and old people, teaching people from all around the world to come together with one language, using this exact same English language that Jefferson and others used so powerfully to turn words into action. You're doing the same thing right now. And you, the tutors, you, the students, you, the volunteers, you, the board members, you, the corporate sponsors, you, all of you in this room who make this happen, who make LCNV happen every single day, you are doing the right thing. You are doing the American thing. And by God, God will reward us for doing the right thing, because as long as there are evil out there, we've got to fight evil with good. And we've seen evil close up last week. We've seen it too many times. We're seeing it over and over and over again. We may not be able to stop gun violence, but you and I can certainly love each other that much more. And so today, I think, is a call of action. And the fact that LCNV right here in Falls Church, you are starting that spark that will help us unleash another sense of American Revolution. We're starting today, right here in Virginia, we are going to create a new America that loves each other, takes care of each other, supports each other, people volunteering with each other, neighbors giving with each other, and LCNV, you're doing the right thing. So I'm going to thank you for what you do. I'm going to thank all of you, and let's go out there and just do the best we can under the toughest circumstances to remember that it's all about pursuing happiness, and let's help each other become free and happy.
Okay, there we have a call to action. It's a hard act to follow. Thank you, Mark. Gosh, we've been friends for a long time, and I've done several events with Delegate Keeman. I've never seen him so worked up, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing. And we will follow his leadership by recognizing our great and outstanding students, because it's that time of the program where we get to recognize all of the students who were nominated by their teachers or tutors for their dedication to learning, perseverance, and accomplishments. These are the outstanding students of the year as nominated by your teachers and tutors. So this is a part of the program where the learners come up on stage to be recognized. Shu Chu Ho, Medina Ahmed, Melinda Bengas, Juana Mata, Nelly Rojas, Navidad de Cante Romero, Tatiana Paras, Ruyun Ha, Alejandrina Tejada Gutierrez, Bai Within, Owalibe, Shaheen Mohammed, Najis Monique, Lisa Rashid, Marlena Sabura, Roberto Balestra, Lihara Baera, Elizabeth Caro, Shanaz Parveen, Maria Lujan, Armida Montoya. Hey, do we have everybody up there? All students, let's do a big group photo here. Thanks. Pictures, lots of cameras. That's tremendous. Thank you all so much. Congratulations to all of our students. We're so grateful for you. It's a really big group, right? We are doing something right tonight. This is a big crowd. And we are so proud of all of them and all of the tutors and teachers that make them outstanding students. I hope everybody got a photo too. Lots of cameras were going off. All right, now we get to recognize the tutors that make our work possible. The Literacy Council has many volunteers, all of whom deserve to be recognized. Last year, over 700 LCNV volunteers contributed over 30,000 hours of their time. And this adds an in-kind financial value of $793,000 to our financial statements. That is an incredible contribution to service. Think of the lives we are changing every day through your valuable commitment of time and energy. Because we have such a long history, we've been around 53 years, and such a dedicated family, we also experience loss. This year, in fact, just a few weeks ago, we lost our dear volunteer colleague, Carol Smith, who served as LCNV's lead resource librarian. She served in this role for 7 years. Carol recently spearheaded LCNV's library modernization project, working with the staff and with the Philip Graham Fund to upgrade and update and modernize the LCNV library. Carol also served as a basic tutor for 7 years in the 1980s. Carol Smith gave 14 years of dedicated volunteer service to the Literacy Council. So I just wanted to acknowledge her and thank her for her service. So let us first begin by recognizing those volunteers who were nominated by their students as outstanding tutors and teachers. They're all written in the program. So not only do our learners write essays as first-time English language learners, they also submit nominations about their teachers and tutors and spend time sending these nominations into the Literacy Council to say, my teacher is fabulous, I love my tutor. They're just wonderful stories. So please take the time to read those nominations written by our amazing students. I would just like every volunteer who received a certificate for being an outstanding tutor or teacher to please stand and be recognized, because you do extraordinary work. We also recognize those extremely committed volunteers who have put in many years of service. 26 LCNV volunteers have been here at least 5 years. You will see their names listed in the program. So if you are one of those volunteers who have been here 5 years and you get a 5-year certificate, could you please stand and be recognized? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. All right, so now it gets really fun because I'm going to name the names of people who have been here even longer, starting with those who have 10 years of service. And if you hear your name called, I would love for you to come up on stage so we can do another group photo, just like we did with the students. You've seen this done because that former crowd did it so successfully. So, volunteers who have had 10 years of service: Claire Brown, Debbie Droller, Patty Gradueski, Stephen Isaacson, Richard Morton, and Debbie Pierce. All right, come on stage. by some of our other long timers. There are 4 volunteers with 15 years of service. Jan Auerbach, Michael Coogan, Rosemary Hayden, Ann Cruzius. Any of you guys here? All right, I'm going to roll right into the 20 years of service. 20 years. People have been volunteering for LCNV for 20 years. Susan Clayman, Ann Gilson, and Nancy Trier. Any of those guys? And I know you're here. Come on up, Ann. There she is. And we do have one volunteer who has served with us for 30 years, Mary Kate Doherty, who is not here tonight. She already called and told me, and she always says, oh, well, I started when I was 12. But we've all seen Mary Kate around, and I'm sure she'll make it to 35. So congratulations to our long-timers. And now we come to the point of the program where we recognize our Volunteer of the Year awards. So these are the volunteers that we want to recognize for their outstanding achievements. And I say this every year, it's always difficult to choose a few from the list of so many amazing volunteers. But when I read their stories and you read about them in the playbill, then you kind of get why they rose to the top. But before we get into the individuals, I want to just broadly recognize the LCNV Volunteer Training Team. Because this year we really revised our basic literacy training and ESOL tutor training, completely revised it. So over the past 18 months, we had a core group of people who really worked on revising our training, and this was our first step toward our change process. We're integrating the programs, we're creating pathways, we're creating more flexibility for our volunteers. This is a significant shift for LCNV. So I just want to recognize the group of people that worked together over 18 months, met probably 12 times, 2 to 3 hour meetings, looking at the basic literacy training and then the ESOL tutor training and merging them and revising them, and I love them all. It was an incredible amount of work. So I do want to recognize publicly Claire Brown, Pat Matheson, Bill Knowlton, Pat May, Karen Singer, and Nina Azula for doing all the heavy lifting on this. Change is hard. Change is really hard. And this team took it head on. And it was amazing to watch. And now LCNV leads the industry in a volunteer training program that is interactive, comprehensive, and integrates new technologies and blended learning in a way that really makes us a standout program nationally. So congratulations to that hardworking group of 6 people. So now on to our volunteer here. Doris Garlock. She is an all-time favorite. She does everything. Doris is one of those most flexible, willing to step up to the plate, and she's been doing this for 11 years. She's a standout for the staff and other volunteers for her flexibility and her consistent testing of our learners. This is one of the hardest jobs. We assess with an assessment tool all of our learners as they come into the program, and then after 40 hours of instruction, we assess them again. It's a hard job, and it's hard to get people to volunteer to do this. Doris does it all the time. I think she personally has assessed every single ESOL student in the tutoring program. So we love her for that. And she's always there. She's always saying yes. And so Doris, you are one of our volunteers. We just got Ann Gilson up here for 20 years of service with LCNV. Ann Gilson has been around for almost half of the life of the organization. Talk about someone who's experienced a lot of change. A change in programs, a change in staff, a change in student demographics. There isn't much that's remained the same except for Ann Gilson. She remains consistently dedicated, steady, reliable, and passionate about her work and the learners she serves. She has been a PA, so she works with the volunteers and she works with the learners and does the matching. So she gets to see all sides of the organization, and she is loved and respected by all of them. She also trains new placement advisors. So it's a hard job in this organization to kind of be in that leadership role and working with everybody. And she's done it, and she never complains. And every time we change things, she steps right up to the plate and does it. So in an organization that's spinning with growth and change and always in motion, Ann is most refreshingly constant and yet always open to new things. And we cannot thank you enough for your 20 years of dedicated service and your continued love of LCNV students and volunteers. Thank you. Okay, and finally, but certainly not least, Ro Hoford is LCNV's most amazing IT staff / volunteer. Without her incredible in-depth knowledge of LCNV's Access database, yes, we're still using Access, we would be lost without Ro. It is a highly specialized, gifted volunteer who takes her job seriously and takes all things database related, including outcome reports for 82 funders, new fields all the time for program changes, quick fixes when things go wrong with an Access database, like does that happen constantly or what? She's been volunteering with LCNV for 6 years, comes into the office every Wednesday to help with database updates and reports, but we also, the staff, contact Ro at home at all hours and somehow expect her to respond like a 24/7 IT consultant. The crazy thing is, she does, and she's a volunteer. Don't tell Ro that some nonprofits pay a lot of money to IT consultants to do this, because she's doing it regularly as a volunteer, and she's so good. We would be crazy lost without her. Ro was also very involved with our volunteer librarians on the library modernization project, worked very closely with Carol Smith, and actually wrote the program that digitized our library collection as a volunteer. So, Ro, for doing the work of at least one full-time staff member, thank you for being a more than exceptional volunteer. Honestly, how would we get by without so many extraordinary people in our family and our big, large community of wonderfulness? So finally, we do need to recognize our incredible AmeriCorps members. These members serve with LCNV and our sister organizations to the west and south, Loudoun Literacy to the west, and Prince William County's Beacon for Adult Literacy to the south. The Literacy Council of Northern Virginia is the fiscal agent for an AmeriCorps grant. We recruit and train 8 members a year, and they are our teachers, our data entry people, our program assistants, our everything. And they work at least 35 hours a week for a full year for a very large stipend of $16,000 a year. Pretty extraordinary service work. We are so tremendously grateful to our volunteers. So please let us recognize all 7 of them this year. Lauren Zander, Kat Contreras, Sue Park, Vero, has Vero make it? And from Beacon, Alexander is here, and Rachel Lipscomb. Did they make it? Yes, good. I also want to mention that Kat Contreras was nominated and won the Blackboard Company's Teacher of the Year Award. So is that the coolest thing? It was a wonderful online competition sponsored by Blackboard, and Kat was the only one. She was nominated by her student, and she's the only one of many nominated that represented adult education. So we were more than thrilled that she was one of the winners. So thank you and congratulations to all of our AmeriCorps members. We couldn't do it. And finally, it's almost time for cake. I know that's the best part, right? I know that's what you want. But I do want to thank the people that helped put this event together. Again, our James Lee Theater Director, Dan Schrader. Our own Development Manager, Mary Tech. We had 20 volunteers who were involved in either reviewing the essays or typing the essays or creating the essay gallery. And a special thanks to Liz Castillo, who painted the beautiful background for the essay gallery. So please take notice of that when we go down to the classroom today. All the essays are on display. And the volunteers who helped set up the event and will probably help us clean up the event tonight, Ron Levine's meetup group, thank you for being here. And our photographer, Mark Charette. Thanks, all of you. So we bring the event to a close, and all of you are to be congratulated because you are all part of this amazing community that does so much good in Northern Virginia, and it's something to celebrate. So let's go have cake.